Let's go ahead and introduce our player. Starting in the bottom right, we have from Team Mouse Sports. Oh, just kidding. I read his name off. He's not on Mouse Sports anymore. He's teamless. It is Stefan Anderson, known as MorroW, who has actually been streaming a lot of Heart of the Swarm, not just playing it, if you guys can document it. And also, I do want to credit this, but MorroW is almost single-handedly balancing a lot of stuff in Heart of the Swarm because he's submitting a lot of the great ideas. Him, Grubby, as well as other people like Scarlet, even Idra chimes in once in a while about how Heart of the Swarm is doing. And MorroW is making a lot of the ideas of like things like, for example, he was pointing out a lot of the Mothership flaws with early recall, like how that was big, and then they changed it. So being really active, even though you may have not seen MorroW in a lot of international tournaments.
Yeah, a lot of these pro gamers are actually saying that the Mothership core is a big buff, actually.
Do you
relative to
like
the
the
last
new
one.
Mothership core?
Yeah, people are saying that the new Mothership core is significantly better than the last one. I mean, you have 10 range with your sight, so you can basically see everything that's always going on in the beginning stages. And when there's no early unit to really track everything down, you could basically play with sort of a map hack, which is kind of weird. But it is so powerful, especially in TVP.
Absolutely.
That's something where build orders matter so much. I've been finding out that a lot of these Terrans actually don't want to play TVP at all, because at that high level, Protoss, knowing your build, it's an automatic loss. They know, okay, you're going 3 command centers, I'm going to do a Squirtle push. You're not going 3 command centers, you're doing all in, aggression. I'm going to sit back in my base and just get Colossus, and then LOL as soon as you get over to my base.
Well, let's see how MaSa will be able to square up against MorroW, who's been very, very active on the expansion for StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty. MaSa is he's been like a guy that maybe he doesn't necessarily have the strongest early game. As you can see that he's poking in with this Marine, but really just threatening some kind of bunker pressure. No real damage that's going to be able to be done here unless MorroW lets him. But MaSa, we've seen him start off kind of rocky early game, but he's able to dictate lots of great engagements in the middle and even late game and get strong positions. And his micro is, on the same standard as almost every other top Korean Terran. So I think from that point, a lot of people can't underestimate him. I had the opportunity to talk to Katz about what makes MaSa so special, and he says that MaSa just finds ways to win, even if he's behind. And that kind of stuff is scary, because how can you prepare for someone like that? How can you plan and strategize against someone that just finds a way to win no matter what?
And coming from Katz, what that tells me in particular is the fact that MaSa is operating on a different level. He's not operating on the level where it's like, oh, I'm just trying to execute my build. No, he's actually saying to himself, how can I get back into this game? And that's like, okay. You can't undervalue that, because when you're actually thinking like that, you're saying to yourself, well, they're not even caring about execution, which means that they can actually play this game like chess. And when you meet someone like that, that's something that's super powerful. And this whole time, the whole time that Fruit was over, they were actually telling me, yeah, MaSa is the real deal. He is going to be the next big thing. His execution is amazing. His builds are really, really good. And he's a smart player. And that's why I think a lot of these people have been really talking a lot about MaSa and saying he is going to be the next big thing in the Western scene.
We do see a third command center from MaSa while he's adding a starport, so he's at least showing signs of going for the Hellion Banshee into mech play that we see quite often. And Ohana has great, I guess, terrain for that kind of style, and that's why players like MVP love doing it on this map. But just again, to piggyback off what you said, Andre, I think that kind of skill is really becoming important. Being clever. I know it sounds very silly, right? Like, oh yeah, sure, being smart and being witty with your units. But I think being able to trick your opponent in mind games have become so important, especially in best of 3, best of 5, best of 7 series nowadays, because builds have kind of been figured out. The game has already kind of settled to the point where everyone understands how to defend everything early to mid game.
That's right.
And so that's why some games default and start at 3 bases.
Yeah.
But instead, if you say, I could be clever and do things really smart things, that's why PvP is still evolving. That's why a lot of people are still finding really cute ways to play. And MaSa is one of those players, and I really think he has a lot of potential to go very far in this game.
I agree. Nice little bunker over here on the bottom left-hand side, just stopping that third base from going down. Basically, MaSa has everything that he needs to actually read exactly what his opponent is doing. As you can see, there's no third base. When this happens, normally you're saying my opponent has 2, maybe 3 different things. But the 2 main things are tech and an all-in. He doesn't sense an all-in right now. I think gauging just by the creep spread. Normally you don't all-in after you creep spread just because you're buying additional queens, which detracts a little bit from all-inning. But more importantly, it's always going to be either Infestor or Spire Tech. You normally don't see Roaches out in the field, but you can see a little bit of pressure being done. MorroW is going to be able to receive this quite well. It looks like he will take out this one. Banshee, nicely done.
Yeah, very nice. Although a lot of Zerglings have been forced. And MaSa does see no third base. He did have a bunker, like I guess a QXC-like bunker.
Yeah.
Just, to protect the third from being able to go up as well as creep spread. So this is keeping MorroW on 2 base, but this gives MaSa the knowledge. And look at that, he's already putting up turrets just because he feels a little bit unsafe.
Yeah.
Sees that many Zerglings, he knows mutas are incoming.
That's really clever, actually. And a lot of these players, actually Dark Force in a recent vlog was saying that going mutas is good. 2-base mutas has a good all-in against this Banshee play that's so in phase. Just because, the mutas hit at a time where normally Terran don't have their production up. They don't have their essential upgrades, but it looks like MaSa already has his stim, so he's looking really, really good. I feel like these mutas aren't going to do nearly as much damage as MorroW needs to. That's why he's supplementing this with a lot of Zerglings and a Baneling Nest. That's going to help out so much, but can he hit before the major upgrades? I don't think so. 1-1 is almost finished for Terran.
And MaSa isn't going for mech. Instead, from Heli and Banshee, he's going straight into Marine Tank. So going against what the normal metagame is, and if he can get the siege tanks in position, in fact, MaSa's taking on his own rocks.
And 41 Banelings. 41. He's not even going for mutas. I thought for sure they were going to see mutas out. I don't know if he actually finished the Spire. Yes, he did.
He needs to get his siege tanks in siege mode.
Oh, this could be actually the perfect timing. +1 finishes. Can he get the +1 armor?
No, he does. He does. +1 armor did finish, and that might be huge for the Zerglings to come in. The Banes are going straight for the SCV line. MaSa has 60 workers, so we can afford to lose them compared to MorroW. MorroW only has the workers in the 40s, and the defense from MorroW, the Banelings, tunnel visioning onto the workers, end up getting picked off. And Stim, of course, the Marines allow them to pick off the remaining trails. MaSa is supply blocked, but he even kept his tanks.
That is a giant advantage right now for MaSa. Not only was he able to finish his 1-1, but what did he really commit to that defense? Not a lot of SCVs, not a lot of supply depots, but 41 Banelings. That is a ridiculous amount. I think that's what?
That's 1,000 gas.
1,025 gas, 1,025 minerals, plus the 41 Zerglings, which roughly, what's that, 1,000 minerals again?
Yeah, so it's just, that's 2,000, 1,000 resources. And the supply, the units lost tab tells everything. 3,000 in advantage for MaSa. And it's not necessarily how expensive the units are, but of course that represents time as well. I mean, MorroW's gimped his entire mid game because of it. So now MaSa has 3 base so comfortably. Look at his supply counts.
Yep.
He's making triple SCV. He's already coming up in the mid-60s once again. And MorroW does manage to catch up in the drone count, but his tech has been severely delayed.
What does he do from here? 2-2 timing. That's the most standard thing for Terrans these days. It looks like he might even push out before this. I think this is a little bit risky, but I can see where he's coming from. He wants to actually keep the creep receded as much as possible. You can see it is a little bit tricky, and it looks like MaSa will be cleaned up just a little bit. But this attempt by MaSa is actually to clear up as much creep as possible, not let it actually go all the way to even this Delnaga Tower. If he can, just recede as far as possible, the 2-2 timing will be empowered.
Yeah, I definitely agree. MaSa being able to set up a mid-game and just keep on the slight pressure onto MorroW with what this dropship is for. Although MorroW does spot the dropship with his Zergling that's very cleverly placed at the 4th base, and he's still making Mutalisks. Oh, sorry, not still making. He's still making Zerglings, but he's adding on Mutalisks. He's got a few, and the Viking does discover it, so MaSa has to be very careful with how he proceeds. 3rd is pretty safe, though, and I like the SimC that MaSa is also doing in his bases.
MaSa's probably so happy to actually see those mutas, though. Fredin, because the mutas just tell him, oh, well, your gas, the majority of your gas directly after that engagement is going into mutas, not something like infestors. So what that tells him is that MaSa can actually push up on creep a lot faster. He doesn't have to worry about clumping up units or anything like that. Here we go, an attack is coming in here. MorroW's doing an exceptional job with this macro though. That's something that's pretty impressive so far, but look at that.
Yeah.
Marines just clean house. They don't even care.
Too strong, and +2/+2 is, at least in terms of the weapon side, about to finish, giving the Marines that much more DPS to handle against such a fragile army. MorroW's going for a mini run by, but there's this bunker very well placed, and there's nothing really that those things can do. In fact, one Marine and SCVs can fight it off. Mutas are trying to attack the third, but they are also under heavy pressure because the bunker is well placed. Look at that, just everything is slightly in range, and MorroW taking heavy losses just from the good placement of MaSa.
That's right. And MaSa just needs to collect himself right now, and I think MorroW actually knows what's going on. 26 Zerglings and 37 Banelings are in queue right now, which just tells me that, yes, MorroW does know that this imminent push is coming. We'll see how good MaSa's micro is, because that's what it really comes down to. Banelings!
Well, the tanks are out of position, and when you got tanks, the Banelings are very much empowered. MaSa getting a little bit greedy of pushing too fast does end up losing his base and his fourth.
Yeah.
So MorroW able to really, I guess, shut down that push timing.
Yeah, MaSa really losing his composure here, Frodan. I'm actually really surprised. MorroW has been all over his opponent, and that just shows me a complete lack of multitasking coming out from MaSa. He was not able to actually take care of his fourth base while, microing everything, which is hard to do, but you really got to question MaSa's decision to take that fourth base at that time when you're pushing out and mutas are doing that counterattack, and there's so many Zerglings in the game.
At the same time, though, MaSa did force MorroW to use all 37 of those Banelings, so that still was a huge gas investment. Now he has the fourth base high ground to kind of work in his advantage. MorroW's going up the ramp. That is a very difficult position to attack, but he might have too many units. But his MaSa's units are off creep as well. Where is his reinforcements? They're all rallied to the nearby watchtower. So the second wave of units has been crushed, and all of a sudden supplies have kind of leveled, with MorroW having a pretty decent economy, although he doesn't have a fourth base. MaSa, his timing has really been negated. Very well done by MorroW.
Yeah, the trades are still good for MaSa, but I feel like he never attacks with all of his army, and he's giving MorroW like the largest rooms to actually get back into this game. You don't want to be trading like this. I mean, trades are good with Zergling Baneling. It actually stopped him from going to Hive Tech, but at this point, I feel like MaSa has been just getting beaten. He's actually being outplayed a little bit in this mid-game stage. MorroW going in for another round here, and will clean up the siege tanks. I mean, that's one of the big things. When you're going when you're going Marine siege tank, you actually want the siege tank count to be pretty high. And that way, obviously, the AoE can help out with killing the Zerglings and killing the Banelings, and you can target all those down. But he hasn't been able to actually get a good count of those siege tanks, and that's been hindering him every single attack.
Well, MaSa now has triple factory up from, so he's adding on a little bit more. Normally you go 2 factory for the mid-game. But I guess at this point, MaSa just really wants to add on lots of production, go for another timing. Before MorroW can get up his Hive Tech, he's starting to incorporate infestors, although the infestors will pop before pathogen glands. MaSa is still putting on lots of pressure with small packs of armies, and the important thing is that normally when you do this, you're dropping the main also, or you're trying to, spread or contain the creep, draw Zerg's attention away, but MaSa focusing everything here. We'll see how much that's able to do, but at the same time, MorroW's also going for the fourth base attack. With a very feeble amount of
not up yet. Yeah, but it will pop pretty soon. The fourth base of MorroW goes down, and MaSa is now just pulling ahead because of that. I mean, the fact of the matter is, when you're going Zergling Baneling Muta, you need to have some sort of economic advantage on your opponent, or else, Terran units are going to weather you down no matter what. They are more cost efficient under normal circumstances. So it's going to be tough for MorroW.
Yeah, MorroW does drop Infested Terrans very cleverly and forces almost 2 tanks to drop. But now MaSa has too strong of a position because he can use these tanks off creep as an anchor point. The Marines do get fungled, but that's okay because there's not a lot of infestor energy, and MaSa's production's really starting to kick in. Look, he's starting to also incorporate some Thors into his composition to handle the Mutalisks, but may have no need for that. MorroW is going to tap out GG, and MaSa takes game number 1 with just raw macro. and a solid opening.
That's right. It's trades. He knew he was ahead, getting to third base a lot sooner than his opponents. He was able to have more units all the time. Still, I have to hand it to MorroW. He did a great job in just trading consistently. I mean, a lot of players in that position would just give up. They would just be like, okay, I lost
They
certain
give too much space to Terran.
Exactly. It's like you have way too much money to actually work with. I'm not going to do it. And you know what? I was going about this a little bit in the pregame show, but we were talking about how MorroW a lot of times just plays macro games. He doesn't really do these all-ins. Here we show a perfect example of an all-in where it hits at a very awkward time when 1-1 is already finished or is about to finish. On top of that, it's just not really effective. I don't know what builds it actually killed. It's only like bio-only builds, but I think for the most part, it's not going to be effective against the wide range of Terran builds in the beginning stages.
Even though MorroW did a good job containing the tanks, I like MaSa's response saying, well, I'm just going to have to catch up really quick. 3 factory, and yes, maybe scale back my other ability to transition into whatever late game I want. And was able to really crush MorroW because he stayed on layer tech for a very long time. Those 41 banelings, 37 banelings, 2,000 gas. That's a lot.
Do you know what I'm thinking right now? He might have tried to hard counter some sort of mech play. Because even you were saying, oh, Terran's not meching. Normally in this metagame,
well, when you see Hellion Banshee, man, you think mech.
You think mech.
So
he could have been thinking that and saying, okay, well, you kind of know I'm on 2 base for a long time. I'm kind of giving off the sense that I'm going Spire tech. So they're thinking, okay, my opponent's going Thors, not Siege tanks. That's why Zergling Baneling works. Could be that. MorroW could be trying to do a mind game.
Lots of things to consider as well. We're going into game number 2. Thank you so much. That game was brought to you by Audible.com. If you want to download a bestseller, any book, I'm personally reading a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. If you want it to be read to you by someone, go ahead and go to nasl.tv/p/audible for a special limited time offer. Why don't you do that while we take a commercial break and get ready for game number 2 between MaSa and MorroW. Don't go anywhere. More action from Week 4 Division 1 right after this.